Don't scare the children.
Whatever he says, then you go, no.
We'd like to welcome you out this morning to a commission meeting. This is Tuesday, June 18th, 2019, and I'm Commissioner Scott Jenkins, Chair. And we have with us today Commissioner Harvey and Commissioner Frohr. And we welcome you all here. It's good to have you here. Man, you're all smiling today, and the weather's good. It's a great day to be alive, isn't it? Anyway, we welcome you here. We've got a special day today. We're going to have an invocation by Zachary Dam, and then our Pledge of Allegiance today is going to be offered by Hayden Wilbanks. So Hayden is sitting right next to Gage here, Commissioner Frohr, and she is the daughter of Holland Wilbanks, who is our, what's Holland? Economic Development. Thank you, I'm sorry. She's our Economic Development Director for the county. And it's exciting that she'd have enough confidence and faith in us, the county, to bring her daughter in there and let her do this. We appreciate that, Holland. And Hayden, we're excited about that. So we'll, and then Commissioner Harvey's got the thought for today. So we'll go to the prayer first, and then when we get done with the prayer, we'll come to you, and you can stand up and speak right into the mic, okay? And say, just follow me, okay? Okay, so Zach, go ahead. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Father in heaven, we thank you for this day that you've given us. We thank you for the blessing and the privilege of self-government, as we see even today with our county commission, that we have the ability to elect our officials. We pray, Lord, that you would grant them today the wisdom and the discernment as they handle the affairs that are before the commission, and that you would help them to make just and prudent decisions for the county and for us, the citizens. It is in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen.
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 Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job.
Commissioners and body, great having you here. You know, this last week was a wonderful week. We celebrated a Father's Day. And not everyone is a father, but everyone knows a father or came from a father. And that being said, I wanted to just cite a couple things. First one is by Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is trying to please everybody." The key to failure is trying to please everybody. You know, one of the things that I've learned especially recently is a lot of people love respect. They like it, they want it, and most have actions that deserve it. And commissioners, my thought today is, may we always be found worthy of respect. It doesn't mean we always will agree on everything, but we do. One of the things I love most about this body right now is we do respect one another. That's whether we're on the dais or away from here or in the quiet. We seem to respect one another, and it's wonderful. And I wanted to thank you and wish you both a belated happy Father's Day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. You know, today's kind of a special morning. Zachary, I want to thank you for praying for us. That makes me feel really good to have somebody stand up and pray that we'll have wisdom and that we'll have the Lord's Spirit with us when we deal here. I appreciate that, and I want you to know it. And Hayden, I want you to know how much we appreciate you spending your time to come in here and open this up and do the pledge for us. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You come from a really good background. And you're cute to boot. Very good. All right. You can go sit back with your mom if you want to. Or you can stay here if you want to.
Want to stay here?
Okay, that's good. You bet. That's great.
Take some votes here.
Okay. Commissioner Harvey, thanks for that thought of the day. We appreciate it. All right, public comments today. We put the public comments at the beginning of the meeting, so folks that are coming to address issues get a chance to speak about them and don't get just ran over by our agenda. So if there's any that would care to speak today, Mrs. Lori Brinkerhoff, it's nice to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
6205 West, 4700 South, Hooper, Utah. Greatest place on the face of the earth. Went for a long bike ride this morning out there, so it's good to be with you. But as I look through your agenda, I'm here quite often and I don't always speak, but there's one item that jumps off the page at me that I just have to make a comment on and commend you for addressing this. I have a policy that I try to not speak about a document unless I've read it in its entirety, and I have not read this document, so I will acknowledge that. But I'm going to speak about Action G2, Request for Approval of Policy 16.1, Personal Use of County Property. And, quite often when we look at different policy, we look at our own experiences. And I'm going to be nostalgic. We don't have a timer going, so I might take more than 3 minutes, but I'm going to remind you, I grew up in Cody, Wyoming. And as I grew up there, I had the opportunity to work. I worked as a nanny when I was 18, and for one of the affluent families there in Cody. And as I would watch their children, and they would travel throughout the summer, I would go to the home of one of the county commissioners and stay with his children while they traveled. And it was quite interesting, even at 18, that I noticed that the 2-mile lane that went out to their private property was maintained by county equipment. That quite often it was maintained, they would do the trimming, the paving, the asphalt, even the snow removal. It kind of raised a few eyebrows. And when asked that individual why he had such a practice, quite often he'd say, well, because I can. There's nothing on the books telling me that I cannot. And that was quite profound, and that was correct. Unless we have an ordinance on the books stating that someone cannot enact. And so thank you for adopting this. I know in Weber County we have great practices, and I just think the world of you three and your wisdom. So that's my comments today. Thank you for putting in place this policy. So if there is anything that would be unethical, questionable, something that falls into the gray area, that's been taken care of for us for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, don't leave yet. I got a question for you now.
Certainly.
You came to the lectern and kind of opened this up. So have you announced yet your candidacy?
I am printing signs. It's been in the paper. Yes, I am running for mayor of Hooper City.
Very
There's
good.
2 other individuals who I'm running against, and we're friendly in Hooper. They're great individuals, so we'll have a public, meet and greet July 3rd at 7 p.m. out at Hooper City. So that will be our first, come and meet and greet and get to know us and see how we differ on
Well,
positions.
very good. We wish you well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And we love it when you come and speak to us. Is there any others that care to address the commission today? Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you, Lori. Very good. That closes public comment, so we'll go into the consent items. Request for approval, consent item 1, of warrants 1831 through 1848 and 440108 through 440325 in the amount of $1,189,912. Request for purchase orders in the amount of $500,139. Request for approval of the minutes of June 11th. Request for a contract by and between Weber County and Stauffer Enterprises to repaint exterior building elements pursuant to to terms outlined in the project manual, and request for approval of a severance agreement by and between Weber County and Austin Stickler. So just so you folks understand, prior to this meeting, when these consent items come up, we sit down with the various individuals who go through this. So we make sure that we're aware of these. So this morning we went through the warrants, all the money that we're paying, and $1.2 million is a lot of money that we pay out in a month well, this is in a week,
Week.
actually. And we go through the purchase orders. One of the reasons our purchase order is so big is because we've got a new road grader on there for almost $300,000. And so we've had a chance to bring ourselves to a point where we're knowledgeable about these things. So, commissioners, any questions on those?
Good with it.
No, just a quick statement.
Yes.
As it relates to the road grader and just about everything else that happens here, it was done according to state statute and done by code, and I'm really happy with the procurement process by which we follow. So, and to that also, before you go to Ricky, I also appreciate that you've taken the time to reorganize the way that this looks for us. It makes it simpler, and you've done a good job. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I agree with that. Thanks, Ricky. All right, go ahead.
All right, so we issued 21 purchase orders this week for $500,000 total. As mentioned, about two-thirds of that amount, or $323,000, was for the road grader. 13% or $64,000 is for our IT department, and that will go to purchase the back end of our phone system to upgrade that old system. 11% or $55,000 is for the health department, and that will go towards purchasing vaccines. And 6% or $31,000 is for the library, and that's for HVAC maintenance and repairs. As far as checks, we issued 234 checks this week for $1.2 million. Spread pretty evenly. 17% or $200,000 is for the paramedic fund, and that's our monthly contribution to that. 16% or $190,000 was our monthly contribution to Weber Human Services. 9% or $107,000 is contracted services for our public defenders. And then we had 3 items for between $80,000 and $90,000. That's about 7% each. One was a ramp award, which went to Pleasant View and Ogden First. The second was for our 12th Street construction project. And then lastly was our monthly contribution to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. That's it.
Very good. So we collect transit room taxes and other taxes that go to tourism that are generated by our tourism, and we give some of that money to the Convention and Visitors Bureau to help them, and they turn around and spend that money to generate visits and tourism in the county to help our businesses. And I thought it was interesting that this road grader we just bought, they've been using one now for a couple months, and it's like, well, where'd you get that? And the cat dealer loaned that to us to use till ours came in. So we haven't missed a moment this spring with that, and this turned out really good. I've had a couple comments on our roads that we've been grading, how good they look. So I think that's good.
Really good.
No,
All right.
very much needed.
I'm open for a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the consent items, or item F on the agenda, as proposed.
I'd second that.
Thank you very much. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. Next is our action items. Request for approval of resolutions adopting the final rates of 2019. Mr. Hatch.
Commissioners, this is required by law every year that we approve the tax rates. The Commission has decided this year and has approved, or it's up for your approval, the current tax rates that are listed in the agenda, and there is no tax increase proposed for this year by Weber County. So the rates are in the packet, and I would entertain any questions. We also have Mr. Park here who can help for the hard questions. I'll take the easy ones. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd recommend approval of the tax rates.
So can you explain to us why when properties are appreciating all the time, we don't get more money?
Yes, in Utah is a revenue neutral state, which means that the tax rates, the actual tax rates, that's really the result of an equation. What happens is the county or the municipality or whoever, you set the budget, the financial dollar budget. This is what we need. And the state tells us as a county and says, okay, your budget last year was $75 million or whatever. And they say there's been some construction, some new growth in your area, and so we will allow you, instead of it being, what did I say, $70 million?
75.
75. Instead of it being 75, we'll allow it to be 76. If you need more than that, you have to go through truth in taxation, which requires public hearings, notice, and a lot of attention, which is how it should be. So each year, the entity has to make the decision, do we go above what is allowed by state law? And if so, you have to go through that truth in taxation process. Then what happens is, once the budget is set, then you take all of the properties in the county and we value them every year, create a valuation, and it's just a simple division. It's not simple. There's a complex formula in there, but it's the total budget divided by all the properties. It's spread out among all the properties. So if every property in the county doubled in value, the tax rate, the resulting tax rate would then be cut in half, and the amounts would be the same. The challenge is that not every property in the county increases or decreases in value at the same rate as every other property. So properties up in the valley might have increased 25% this year, whereas perhaps in North Ogden they only went up 10%. And that's where you start seeing shifts or differences in your property value or in your property tax. It's because your property has increased in value differently than the average of the county or other areas in the county. That clear as mud?
Yes, no, that was wonderful. So, the legislature in their wisdom decided that we should be a revenue neutral state. And so if we want to garner more taxes here for things we do, we have to have truth in taxation hearings and go to the people. And this is wise. I've always been a proponent of this, because I believe it's important that we, as elected officials, we stand in front of our electorate on a regular basis and account for the reasons we raise or lower taxes or what we do. There's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of people run from these truth and taxation hearings. That's because they're tough hearings. And they're supposed to be tough. They were designed that way. And we shouldn't run from them. But anyway, I'm very pleased with what we do. And when you talk about complicated, when you notice that our current tax rate will be 0.000258. Well, to multiply those out and get to exactly where you're going, it's a lot. Anyway, thank you very much. We appreciate that explanation. So, Commissioners, any comments on that, either of you?
Yeah, I think in a previous life I was able to deal with property tax legislation in the state, and obviously everybody has a little different perspective of what's fair and not fair. But as a whole, as I looked at legislation, I did tweak a few things in the property tax code through the 12 years. But as a whole, I would agree with our chair that we've got a very fair system in this state. We have other states that give special preference to, like Prop 13 in California, that basically makes a shift, and it takes the taxes that somebody's paying and puts the responsibility on somebody else. We haven't done that in the state of Utah, and I think that's a good reason, because we respect our first-time homebuyers, we respect our elderly folks that have access to other types of relief and property tax. So all in all, I think we have a very fair system, and I appreciate the people that then have to interpret that code and work with the property tax division to make that work. So I think that we can be thankful we have a great system in this state.
Great. Appreciate it enough.
I would, if you're ready for a motion, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the resolution adopting the final rates for 2019.
36. I'm sorry, it's 36.
Resolution 36 and second.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye?
Commissioner Farrar?
Aye.
Chair Jenkins?
Thanks, Fatima. We appreciate that. Very good. Next item up is request for approval of policy 16.1, personal use for the county property. So, Brian Barron, how are you today?
Good. How are you this morning, Commissioners?
Very good. Thank you for coming and presenting this.
Sure, I'm happy to. Just a little background on this. Earlier this year, the legislature passed HB 163. That law will go into effect July 1st, and it will have the effect of criminalizing personal use of public property. It will either be a second-degree felony or a third-degree felony for personal use, depending on the value that is received from such personal use. So the county already had policies in effect that protected public property from being abused by employees. However, this law, when it goes into effect, will change the game by introducing this criminal element into the equation. And so the county's crafted this policy to try and reach a balance between protecting public property but also protecting our employees so they're not charged with a second-degree felony or a third-degree felony for something as innocent as checking their email during their lunch break on a county computer. And so I can go into more details on this, but essentially that's what it does. It authorizes occasional and incidental personal use, but at the same time it protects county property so that it isn't abused. Any questions for me about this policy?
Commissioners? You know, I had a thought on this, and we had a discussion on it, and it really never went any further, and that was that I thought at the end of that first paragraph, it should be as permitted by the supervisor, so that they knew what was happening. But apparently, I mean, it takes three, and neither of you apparently felt like you needed that, put that in, that we're okay like we are.
Well, so incidentally, Commissioner, while we're talking about that, I followed up with Sarah Swan and with our attorneys, and it puts the onus back on the supervisor as it is anyway. And so I feel comfortable and support our supervisors, and I feel good where this rests right now. Just to be a little more complete for the audience too, is this doesn't allow someone to do tree trimming and grading on your private 2-mile drive or any part of your drive. We're not talking about that. What this does is it allows an employee to maybe check a personal email account from there, or to do something similar that would be a commonality in today's world with our electronics and everything else. But it doesn't allow any kind of equipment or things like that. And so what it does, and it also, before, the way the statute was written by the state, as I understood it, is if an employee decided to do something like that, they could be charged with a felony. We have a responsibility to protect our employees, and we were already doing that, but this clears that up in that particular state statute dealing with this House bill. So I feel comfortable with it.
One comment about your recommendation to put the burden on the supervisor. That's something that we discussed as we were crafting this policy, and our concern is that then the supervisor has to approve each and every personal use. And if they don't approve it, then it still could be subject to that third-degree felony or second-degree felony. And we don't want something to slip through the cracks. The supervisor didn't give pre-approval for personal phone calls or something just through an oversight. And then that ends up getting charged. I don't foresee that happening, but we didn't want to leave that open, that possibility.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think that the changes we made from having the supervisor make those decisions and having some conversations with Sarah Swan, and I appreciate her input on this, that we felt that, that this personal use panel, where it was a mix of people, basically, that would make the decision rather than have their supervisor, immediate supervisor, which could in some cases present a conflict, be the best way to resolve any issues that have come up. So it may be a little bit more complicated with a panel, but at the same time, I think it's probably a fair, more equitable proposition if these issues do come up. So I think these tweaks you've made to the policy are very good.
Right, and just for some clarification, the panel won't come into play in deciding the occasional incidental use. They would come into play in determining whether an employee had to reimburse the county for that use.
The dollar amount, correct.
Yes, yes.
Before, it was up to the supervisor to make that decision,
Right,
whether
right.
it was de minimis or not. This way, if there's a question on the dollar amount, the personal use panel comes into play.
Correct.
Is that
yes.
right? Yeah.
That's how it reads now.
All of that I'm okay with. I just didn't want to give the personal supervisor a way out. I felt like it was important that the supervisor is involved and knows what's happening under him. But that's okay with it. I'm pleased the way it's been fashioned, and I can agree with the other commissioners on this, so I not a lot of heartache here. One thing's for sure, though, we do want to protect our employees, and the way the state law came down, they created a felony out of this, which is a possibility of doing jail time for simple acts, and that was a little more than I felt should be happening here. So I'm very much in favor of what we're doing.
Just one last thing. I have a person that I admire that was in the legislature say, you know, not all policies that come from the legislature are exactly correct.
That's absolutely true.
Must have been a wise individual.
Yeah. Might have been a couple of them.
Yeah. Well, let's not stretch it too far.
Oh, very good. Well, with that, I'm ready for a motion if somebody would like to make it.
I'll move that we accept item G2, a request for approval of policy 16.1, personal use policy for Weber County.
I'll second that.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thanks, Brian. We appreciate you presenting that. Next up is G3, request for approval of a local transportation funding agreement between Weber County and Ogden City to establish terms of 20th Street Phase 2 project. Ms. Brooke Stewart.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having
You
me.
bet.
Yes, today, like you said, today before you, we have a local transportation funding agreement for the Ogden City 20th Street project. The 20th Street project is intending to improve 0.6 miles of roadway along 20th Street from Washington Boulevard to just a few hundred feet east of Monroe Boulevard. Originally, back in 2016, during the application cycle, Ogden City applied for some funding from the corridor preservation and sales tax funds. They were awarded full corridor preservation funds and a partial funding amount of 50% of their sales tax request. So since that time, since 2016, Ogden City's been seeking other options to find additional funding to complete this project. And at the beginning of this year, we were informed that they had received some surface transportation funds from WFRC and have also committed some Ogden City funds to be able to complete this project. So that award, back in November of 2016, the recommendation from WACOG was to award $99,700 in corridor preservation funds. Those were programmed for 2018. And they approved for recommendation $1,709,600 in sales tax funds that are programmed for 2021. The Commission approved that recommendation as part of their 2016 priority list. So we are here with the local transportation funding agreement to just establish the terms related to that funding. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Good with it?
I'm good.
You know, this is quite a process we go through to approve these projects and this money. And it's extremely thorough. I mean, it goes through in a great deal of detail, and we allocate these funds, and actually, it's a pretty good process.
It's a good process.
All right,
Does a great job.
how about a
Thank
motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve action item G3.
I'll second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. It's unanimous. Very good. So the next one is G4, which is a local transportation funding agreement by and between Weber County and Ogden City to establish terms on the 26th Street project.
Yep, this is another project that also applied for funds in 2016. The 26th Street project is intending to improve 0.42 miles of road along 26th Street from Wall Avenue to Washington Boulevard. As we briefly mentioned in the previous presentation, Ogden City actually applied for 3 projects during the 2016 cycle, and they were awarded partial funding. This one is a project that was awarded 25% of their sales tax request and 100% of their corridor preservation request. 21st Street was also a project that was awarded similar percentages, 100% of the corridor preservation and 25% of their sales tax request. And so at the beginning of this year, Ogden City decided that rather than producing 2 projects that fall short of what they envisioned, they formally withdrew the funding that they were awarded for their 21st Street project in order to apply for additional funding to complete 26th Street. So after the subcommittee and WACOG approved reviewed the 2018 request, they did award additional funding for the 26th Street project. So originally in 2016, the recommendation was to award $62,600 in corridor preservation funds and $1,206,000 in sales tax funds. That was in 2016. And then in November of 2018, WACOG approved a recommendation to award an additional $2,781,050 in sales tax funds, and the Commission approved that request as part of their 2018 priority list recommendation. So the funding agreement before you includes the 2016 and 2018 amounts for a total of $62,600 in corridor preservation funds. Those were programmed for 2017, and $3,987,050 in sales tax funds that were programmed for 2021. So this agreement also just establishes the terms related to that funding, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions, Commissioners?
None.
As you can see, it's a little complicated because these guys get approvals on some things and then they change and withdraw and put in. And Brooke has to make all that go together, and when we vote on it as the Transportation Subcommittee and then the WACOG, and
Yeah, back and
Little
forth. These files have been on my desk for 3 years. I'll be happy
Have
to
they?
move them to the drawer.
Be glad to get rid of them.
This is the culmination of a lot of process before.
Yeah, that's true. Very good. Motion.
So move. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve G4 project, which is the 26th Street project for Ogden City. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Next item, Brooke, is a request for a resolution by and between Weber County Commissioners and authorizing the use of funds for a project on the priority list approved by WACOG.
Yeah, so this is a resolution in regards to the amendment request that was just received from Weber County for their 3300 South project, corridor preservation project. It was approved for recommendation by WACOG just last month in the June meeting. So originally in 2015, Weber County applied for funding to preserve the corridor along 3300 from 3300 West to 4700 West. They were approved $1.1 million. The county began their survey work and design work in the fall of 2017, and just early this spring began acquiring those properties. The project encountered some unanticipated expenses from rising property values and also some proximity damages in relation to how close that right-of-way comes to the homes there. And so because of that, the project has had some increased project costs. So the County Engineering Department has submitted an amendment request to the Transportation Subcommittee, and WACOG reviewed that and approved an additional $375,000 in corridor preservation funds for that project to be able to acquire the remaining parcels. And so with that, we are just here seeking your consideration of this resolution.
So this is on 2550, isn't it?
3300 South.
3300 South. I know it was 3300 West to 4700 West.
3,300 south.
And I was thinking it was on 2700 South.
The county also has a 2550 South project. This request is for
All right, so
3300
it's got a
South.
little mixed up.
No,
I'm
it's
with
okay,
it.
because you've got it right.
It's close.
It's the corridor along 3,300 south
Right.
from 3,300 west to 47.
Yeah, so I was thinking the south was 2700, which is the main road, and it was the rest of that. So I'm with you. Very good. Questions, Commissioners?
Resolution 37.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 37.
Second.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Commissioner Harvey,
Aye.
Commissioner Faur,
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye. Very good. Thanks, Fatima. Very good. Thanks,
Thank you.
Brooke. We appreciate your efforts in for this. Item number 6, G6, request for approval of resolution for Weber County Commissioners of Weber County to provide notice to Morgan County Council of recommendation and intent to appoint a member to serve on Weber Human Services Governing Board. Matt Wilson.
Commissioners, Matt Wilson had a hearing in Cache County today, and so I've been asked to help out with this, and I don't see Kevin Eastman here, but I believe Randy Bates is here as well, who could assist with this. This is a resolution that's being put forward to fill a slot on the Weber Human Services Board. What happens is a name, no less than 2 names are submitted to the County Commission for recommendation to Morgan County Council to confirm, and then once Morgan County Council confirms that name, the Weber County Commission can actually go forward and appoint an individual to serve on the Human Services Board. That resolution has been sent to you. The only thing I don't have is the actual names that have been submitted to you for consideration.
Normally, just that's usually a member of their county council that serves, and so that's what that is, commissioners.
Well, then we don't know who it is.
We don't have the names.
We don't have the names yet.
They're blank.
We can't, but,
I don't have them either.
so,
I was told that Matt had them, so.
can, Mr. Chair,
Yeah?
would you entertain a motion? I'll make a motion that we table this matter until we have the names.
I tend to agree with that.
Yeah.
And you don't have any.
No, I know one of the names, and that's it.
I would second that. I think we need the list before we
Yeah.
can.
And Dave Wilson, the attorney for Weber Human Services, reached out to me yesterday, and he did not have the names either. And so that's an appropriate thing to do, is to table this until next week.
Motion to table, second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7 is tabled, or 6 is tabled.
6.
Very good. Item 7, request for approval of a contract binding between Weber County and the following individuals for legal representation to the indigent, for indigent defendants. That is Gage Crowther and Jonathan Paz? Did I say that right?
I think it's pause.
Paz.
But, yeah.
Very good. So we do this once or twice a year, as you have representation come in and out. These are subcontractors to the Attorney's Office for Indigent Defense. Is that right, Brian?
That's correct. And I have here Michael Bowis, who is our Indigent Defense Coordinator, and as part of his responsibilities to the county, he oversees these contracts and participated in the interview of these gentlemen. So I've asked him to present these items, if that's okay with you.
You bet. Love to hear from him. Mr. Bowes.
Good morning. How you doing, Commissioners?
You're a little different than the other Michael Bowes.
I'm a little different than myself, depending on the day. Today, I feel like I'm myself.
We
So
want to welcome you, though.
thank you. Good
Yes.
to see you.
You too.
As Brian indicated, or perhaps you indicated, we interviewed a number of individuals. We had a person leave us for, we had a person leave us, I guess. And so we had a number of individuals apply. Brian Barron and I were both surprised at the quality of applicants. And I don't want to say anything about prior pools of applicants, but we obviously we're always interested in getting the best people we can to apply for and fill these contracts, because we feel that based on experience, and I think the commissioners are aware, if you spend the money up front, you're not spending it on the back end. And we have one particular case that we are spending money on the back end because of some stuff that happened up front. So we think it's important to get high-quality candidates, and we were surprised, as I mentioned, at the pool that we had. And so actually, we had one individual we're replacing. This contract was actually split in two, sort of extemporaneously. We, as we sat and talked after the interviews, trying to figure out what to do, because we actually, I was in a little bit of an awkward position because we have a current contractor who's only been with us about 6 months, but has proven to be very reliable, very competent. We've had a lot of positive feedback, and he only has a half contract. And so I was pushing him to apply for another half, because I knew he was an individual I could count on. And so he did apply and went through the process. But as we talked to the people that we interviewed and realized we had a little bit of a quandary and decided to award the primary contract to Mr. Paz, very qualified. But we had another individual who was highly recommended by a local attorney, so Mr. Crowther, a resident, I think, of North Ogden, or practices in North Ogden. And we wanted to give him something to get him into the system because we're very impressed with him. And so we decided to split part of the contract off. I was a little concerned he wouldn't accept that because it wasn't much there, but we were able to entice him with some benefits, use of county property to grade his road or whatever. I'm kidding.
You better be.
Apparently Brian doesn't have the authority to do that. So, but anyway, we were able to entice him to accept that. So we got 2 high-quality individuals that are going to join us, and we're hopeful that will work out. Always, after hiring and firing people for 26 years, you always wonder what you're going to get, but they certainly are impressive. We like them. We're anticipating it's going to work out well. So we'd ask the commission to approve these contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. We appreciate that. Questions, commissioners, either of you?
No? You ready for a motion? I'd move to approve the approval of the contract between Weber County and the individuals for the indigent defendants, Gage Crowther and Jonathan Paz.
Second?
We're good. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Bass, we appreciate that. Brian, thank you. That's good. Next, item 8, request for consideration of action on a request for temporary exceptions for the land use code to allow a temporary contract equipment storage yard at 1561 West 33rd South. Steve Burton.
Hi, Commissioners.
You know, it's not often you come up here and ask us for exceptions to
I was
the
just gonna say that we don't often get these requests. We have gotten a request from an applicant along 3300 South on an island of unincorporated Weber County, surrounded by Ogden City in the manufacturing zone. This piece of property is currently in the process of being annexed into Ogden City. And so the applicant, what they've requested is a temporary exception. The land use code allows the county commission to grant a temporary exception to the land use code not to exceed a period of 3 months, and it has to be based on some kind of extraordinary circumstance. So what they've expressed in their narrative is that they've been awarded a bid through the UDOT process, and they will be that property will be used to store UDOT equipment and material as there is a UDOT project going on in the next months. And so the applicant has requested a temporary exception. The land use code currently would require a conditional use permit for this kind of a use. We would require some kind of hard surface parking, landscaping. So because of the temporary nature of this project, the applicant's requesting that. They are here. The applicant is here if you wish to hear from them. But the recommendation is as listed in the staff report.
Very good. So this is just during the construction cycle?
Yes, for UDOT.
Right. Questions, commissioners?
You know, this is easy. It's just this is just a glorified staging area, more so to speak, for any kind of project, and I think it's good business for us to as we move forward. So,
Want to hear from them or not really?
I don't care if we hear from them.
Make a motion then.
I'll make a motion that we accept item number 8 as presented.
I'd second that.
Yeah, I got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Very good. It's
Thanks.
approved. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming today. I assume you didn't necessarily want to get up here.
They want to talk?
Okay, that's great.
No, yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Very good. Next is item 9, request for approval of contract binding between Weber County and JUB Engineering to lead the Golden Spike Stormwater Advisory Coalition. Braden Felix, you've talked to us once about this. Go ahead.
Sure. We've been collecting those interlocal agreements for the last few months, and we have about all of them now, and commitments from the others who we don't. that we should be able to fund the contract for this executive director. We're a member of this coalition, and the whole purpose of the intent of being a member of this coalition is so that we can all uniformly within this area apply the standards required upon us from the state for stormwater protection. And so in order to help us run that coalition more efficiently, we have decided to pull together and hire this director from JUB Engineering. We went through the procurement process and found them the best and only selection available.
Questions, Commissioners? It's a little unusual that they were hiring an engineering firm instead of a person. But, you know, the more I think about it, what the heck?
Would you like clarification on that?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm okay with what you're doing. It's your guys' business, so to speak, you know. What you decide to do. We have trust in your judgment.
Thank you.
Decided.
Yeah, and I kind of like the idea you're hiring a firm that way that if one individual happens to move jobs, that you still have somebody at the firm and without making major changes. So I actually kind of like that idea.
I'm good. I'm with both of you. It works out.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve. G9.
G9, and I'll second that.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thanks, Braden. We appreciate
Thanks,
you
Commissioners.
making the presentation. Yep. Oh, boy, this is a big one now.
Here we go.
Number 10 is request for approval of a regional economic development management agreement by and between Weber County, Davis County, and the Economic Development Corporation of Utah. Mrs. Holland Wilbanks.
Hello, I am so excited to be here. A little nervous with the additional commissioner on the
you should
stand
be
today,
nervous.
but
She's tough.
I'll do my
quiet,
best.
though.
Yeah, I'll do my very best. So as you said, this is a contract between a regional economic development management contract between Davis, Weber, and EDC Utah. And I did get word earlier this morning that Davis just did pass this contract in their commission meeting about an hour and a half ago. So that's really exciting. I thought I'd provide a little bit of background just so we can understand how far we've come along to get to this place. I think it's really exciting for Northern Utah as a whole. About 2 years ago, Weber County went into a data-driven search to build its strategic plan. And as such, the conversations came about a Northern Utah approach. And with a lot of work and research and collaboration, we are finally here today to approve this contract to bring in a third-party consultant for a 3-year period to help build a brand for Northern Utah, to help drive business, to help retain and expand our current customers, which are our businesses and our citizens. So that's a very brief version of how far we've come along. I do have to thank the three of you immensely because it has not been an easy lift, and the coordination that you three, and especially you, Commissioner Four, have worked closely with Davis County and Commissioner Stevenson has really pushed this across the line to get us here today. Teresa Foxley is in Paris right now at the Paris Air Show. Otherwise, she would have been here today. But we are fortunate to have Mike Flynn. So if you do have any specific, and Michael O'Malley as well. So if you have any specific questions for EDC Utah, they're both here to address those. I can address any questions for Davis or Weber County in particular about this contract.
Questions, Commissioner? Mr. Flynn, would you like to make a comment here? I think it's probably appropriate.
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come up and address you today. I would just like to echo what Holland just said. This has been about an 18-month process for us from when we were first asked what we thought about an organization like this and an initiative like this, and to sort of see it go through the different iterations and get to the point where we're at today, where I think we've got a tremendous contract and a great plan. We've already started doing work on pulling this together and getting off on the right steps. So very excited to be where we're at today. Very much look forward to this. I think it will be a great asset for the region up here, and I think it's going to help drive all the outcomes that you as a commissioner are looking for, and we're excited to be part of it and very pleased and gratified that you've selected us to be your partner in this. So happy to answer any questions about the specifics, but just know how much we appreciate your trust in us.
Thank you. You know, I was lukewarm on this when we first got started, and now that I've spent time pushing it and working with it and directing it, I'm pretty excited right now about the direction this is going to go. I think we've struck a contract here that works for all three of us, and I'm excited. Representative Farrar? I'm sorry, that too. But
I'll take
Commissioner
that.
Farrar?
Just a question for Mr. Flynn, if I might first. So would you clarify, so part of the contract was hiring the regional director, who I think we actually met with your nominee a couple weeks ago. Is he now hired, or what's the status of?
So the status is we've essentially talked with this gentleman about what the structure
Okay.
of this would look like, what the expectation is. He's very interested. We've not announced it formally yet. We kind of wanted to not get the cart in front of the horse here, but I think he is our preferred candidate, and I think in the meeting with the commissioners, the sense I got was that everybody was pleased with him. So we look to make an announcement on that as soon as this part of the process gets solved. But he's our desired candidate, and I think if he meets with your all approval, I know the Davis County Commission has sort of given him their blessing. So we've not made it public, but
Okay.
he's our guy at this point.
Well, I think it's our understanding, at least when the meeting a couple weeks ago, that both this body and the Davis County has approved that individual. So
Correct.
I would encourage you to try to get him on board as soon as possible.
I would anticipate a formal announcement very soon. Again, just from a process standpoint, we didn't want to announce somebody before we had
No, that's
contracts.
great.
Yeah.
And I would just say, Mr. Chair, I'm very excited about the future of our northern Utah. I want to thank, obviously, Commissioner Harvey and those commissioners that started this process. It was a arduous process. At the same time, the vision, in my opinion, for economic development for northern Utah and Weber County were spot on. This is what we need to have happen. As you know, when I came on board, I was very vocal saying it's time that Weber County and northern Utah get our share of quality growth up here, which includes jobs, companies coming to this area. And I think with this new contract, with our partnership with the state, with Davis County and Weber County and EDC Utah, this will get us to the place that we need to be, and that we'll start receiving more than our share of good press and of these quality companies that are looking to come to northern Utah. And that's really the key. I think we want to see the quality companies come here. We're the place to be. You know, I would think, in my opinion, if we look at the state of Utah is a great place to be. But in the state of Utah, Weber and Davis are the places these businesses want to be, the people want to locate. We have everything has been discussed in the past here for these families to enjoy and to be very profitable in their lifestyle. So, again, thank you, Commissioner Harvey, for being part of that. I look forward to the economic team that we have in place. I have great confidence in the Davis County. Kent from Davis County and Holland will continue to do what they do in a very professional manner. I look forward to it. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I would echo the last part. Holland has been tremendous here over the last year, so you've made a good choice there, and we look forward to working with her and representing the region and delivering on everything you just said. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You know, thank you, Commissioner. 2 years ago, when we started this, we used data. We used data that was, we did it in partnerships with all the mayors. We used their information to use a data-driven approach to arrive to where we are today. It took a lot of work from Holland and our economic development staff. It took a lot of work to show the data and to get the data in front of Davis County. This is the first borderless agreement that we've ever done in the history of northern Utah. Being almost intimately involved with this contract or not the contract, but this approach from the very beginning, it was really difficult for me to, when Commissioner Farrar was elected, to give up that portfolio. But I can say now with absolute confidence that that was the best decision for Weber County, because Commissioner Frohr has now taken this and elevated it even further because of his, he's got decades. I will just use the word decades, not multiple decades, but he does.
Thank you.
But he's got decades of experience that really work very well in harmony with what we're doing here, and it was absolutely the best decision. And so I'm really, really pleased with what now, or should I say, what's happening here in a few moments, what will happen here. And we're in a really good position, probably better than we've ever been since the Transcontinental Railroad, as far as bringing business here. So I'm really, really excited. So with that, Mr. Chair, if you'll entertain a motion.
One more thing, I want to thank Holland for her efforts, and I want to thank Commissioner Frohr for his. When you came in, we just put this on your plate and said, go do it, and you've done it.
Thank you very much. As Holland said, it's been a pretty heavy lift, but it's been worth it, and I think we're going to start seeing some significant results very soon. Thank you very much.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'm proud. I'm proud to request an approval of the Regional Economic Development Management Agreement by and between Weber County, Davis County, and the Economic Development Corporation of Utah.
Very good. I have a motion.
I'd second that, Mr. Chair.
Second. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I have my daughter back?
I don't know. Yeah, we kind of like her. She's done up here. I've been checking her votes, and she hasn't missed one yet.
She hasn't missed one yet.
Doing great. Thanks, Hayden.
Yeah,
We
thank
appreciate
you.
you being there.
Thank you,
And
gentlemen.
thank you for bringing her. All right, item number 11
Thank you.
is a request for approval of interlocal agreement by and between Weber County, the State of Utah Governor's Office of Economic Development to provide partial funding for camping structures to be constructed in the North Fork Park. Jennifer Graham.
Good morning. We applied for the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant earlier this year. We're going to be constructing 3 camping structures inside of North Fork Park. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bowery closest to the ropes course, but we're going to be kind of repurposing that area. There's a restroom there. There is a covered Bowery, fire rings, and our plan is to do the 3 camping structures this year, and then, 3 camping structures with this grant. It may take us more than the rest of the summer, and then 3 more in the future. And these will be an easy way for perhaps a single parent or some lower income families that don't have all of the necessities to camp to just grab a sleeping bag and some easy food and head out camping. So
these structures, are they yurts?
Yes, they're going to be a yurt of sorts. So
This is kind of your start of the little plan.
yes, this was a $44,000 reimbursement grant, and we are going to put almost $27,000 cash toward it. A portion of that is from RAMP, and then we'll do the labor and the equipment for value in kind.
You know, I got to tell you, having watched Jennifer through this whole process here, what she's done is eliminated liability that could have been on the county with what was there, and increasing revenue and giving now people who wouldn't normally have a camping experience an experience that it'll be great for them. And so I really commend you and your work on this, Jennifer. It's wonderful. And Todd and the rest of the group that are up there. You know, Marty, it's wonderful.
Yes.
You want ready for motion? I'd move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Very good. I have a motion and a second to approve item number 11. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thanks, Jennifer. We appreciate your efforts. Next is 12, request for approval to ratify contract between Weber County and Resolution AV to provide sound and lighting for the 5th annual Weber Fest. Duncan Olson.
Weber Fest. First, I have to apologize. We've had a little bit of turnover in our office, and these contracts should have been here last week. Not really happy about that. So 4 out of the 5 of the next ones are with our We Beer Festival. We had it on Saturday. Had a lot of fun, a lot of good food, a lot of good beer, and a lot of good entertainment. This first one is Resolution AV. They do a great job. They brought in all the sound as well as provided a technician for us to make sure that the bands went off without a hitch.
Very good. Motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So that was approved. Item 13 is request to ratify contract by and between Weber County and Backyard Revival for the same thing.
Yeah, these guys were really pretty good. They're a local group that played a little bit of some old rock and roll as well as some good hippie music. It was pretty entertaining.
Hippie music? You say only hippies drink beer?
No, not in the
Oh,
slightest.
okay.
But
I think cowboys do too, don't they?
a lot of
Maybe they're the
cowboys.
only ones in the backyard.
The only difference is cowboys stick their hair up under their hats. So you can't.
Some of them do, some of them don't anymore. I'd move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for number 13. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Very good. Go ahead. Now, let's see. Request number 14, request to for approval to ratify contracts between Weber County and the Honey Bucket for porta potties for that same event.
Well, this one actually wasn't for the We Beer event. Ragnar came to us a couple days before their big race and asked if they could use our parking lot. And so we did a trade with them to stage their toilets in our parking lot for a couple days. In exchange, we'll get free use out of Honey Bucket for a few events in the future.
Very good. That sounds like a good deal.
It's a really good deal, and you know, sometimes free use is good for Honey Buckets.
That's true.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we approve this contract between Weber County and Honey Bucket.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? It passes. You know, I like the fact you're being creative here, Duncan. Thank you. 15 is request to ratify a contract binding between Weber County and Wild Country for the performance of the 5th annual We Beer Festival.
Yeah, these guys really knocked it out of the park for us. They're a local group that we've used several times. They're worth every penny that we pay them. The crowd, they got probably the best reviews out of all the entertainers.
Very good. Questions? Motion?
Second.
No.
Second.
Okay.
Oh, he made.
Very good.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
And a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Very good. Number 16, approval to ratify a contract between Weber County and Holy Revolver for a performance at the We Beer.
Yep, and these guys were the main attraction. They were there at We Beer last year. Also did a great job.
So move. Make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you,
Commissioners.
Duncan. We appreciate it. 17, request for approval of a resolution of the Weber County Commission appointing a member of the library board.
Commissioners, on this particular,
Yeah, Commissioner Harvey.
on this particular one, there were some names or applications put in for the library board of directors. You know, Judy Jones has been serving. She's done a wonderful job on that library board. She's participated in many different ways, and I have a profound gratitude for what she's done there. But she needed to step down, and so for personal reasons, citing personal reasons, so it became incumbent that the library board bring forth some other names. And in the order by which that they approved those names, you have those in your packet. The first name that came forward was Sandy Crosland. The next one, and you may know Sandy, the next one is Joseph Ballman, and then the third one is Charlie Trentelman. And so in that order is their request for new one board member. One.
Well, what's your motion?
I'd make a motion that, well, if you're asking for a motion, I'd make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the library board by appointing Sandy Crosland to that vacant position.
I would second that. I happen to know all three of these individuals. I think we have really a home run with any of the three that were recommended here, but I would support that motion. I know Sandy, and she has a great interest in what this community does and what this county does, and I think she'd be great on this.
Great. With that, with that motion, we have a second.
We do have a second. So I have a motion and a second.
Resolution 38.
For this resolution. Fatima.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Commissioner Faur?
Aye.
Chair Jenkins?
Aye. Very good. Final is a request for approval of a memorandum of understanding by and between Weber County and Weber Pathways for donations of impact fees for the Pineview Loop Pathway from Winters Grove to the Old Snow Basin Road. Scott. Scott is welcome.
Thank you. I am literally out of breath. You weren't supposed to get through Duncan's items so quickly.
Well, when you come here, you better be
very prepared. Yes.
Gage gets up at like 4 a.m. every day. You're going to have to get up a little earlier if you're going to keep up with at least some of us.
I agree. Well, Commissioners, this item, what we have here today is an opportunity for the county to contribute some collected trail impact fee dollars. These are matching funds, and they'd be contributed towards a Weber Pathways project. Mr. Wilkinson has prepared a brief description of exactly what's before you here. I'm still a little out of breath from coming down those stairs. Commissioners, Weber Pathways is requesting an impact fee donation of $100,000. This is for engineering, environmental review, surveying, and permitting on a new section of the Pineview Loop Pathway, known as Winters Grove, to Old Snow Basin Road. These funds will come from the Upper Valley Trails Impact Fee account, and the project is part of the approved Impact Fee Trails Plan. Weber Pathways has been awarded $200,000 in UDOT TAP funds for fiscal year 2020, but the funding requires a $100,000 match. The county's impact fee donation will fulfill the matching fund requirement, enable construction to begin soon after the TAP funds are awarded in 2020, and allow Weber Pathways to apply for additional funds in the future.
Questions, Commissioners?
Tell me where Winters Grove is. I should know this, but
I believe that's in the Jefferson Hunt area. In fact, there is an exhibit that's been attached.
I was looking for a map. I didn't see anything here.
It's about the fifth page back.
So does this go along the highway?
What's been identified here, I believe, is a section from Huntsville. From Huntsville approximately, through the town of Huntsville, through Jefferson Hunt Campground,
Okay.
up towards Chris's,
Right.
on Highway 39, and then west towards Old Snow Basin Road.
Commissioners, I have one here. Okay. So you probably, it looks like you're coming off of 100 South, going into Huntsville from the, so you have an existing pathway at 100 South, goes west into Huntsville, through Huntsville, connects in with the highway approximately at Chris's, through Jefferson Hunt.
Through Jefferson Hunt over,
That'd be
over
correct.
towards the highway again.
So there are times of the year that this will be underwater, if the water gets a little too high. Damn.
The water can rise quite high, however, I think that they do have plans to cross that high water. Commissioners, this particular section is 1.5 miles, 1.5 miles long.
Yeah, this actually looks really nice.
You know, I've been
The end of the dam.
a little involved with the pathways, sorry, and I wish Holland were here to, but it does take, and it shouldn't, start again. The water should never impede this portion of the trail, but we'll give another connectivity. One thing I did want to say, you know, this is for active transportation that comes from that other fund. I love the fact, because of all the events that are taking place in Weber County, many of them go through our Ogden Upper Valley, that we're investing some of our active transportation money back in that area by which a lot of these events happen. So this is a great reinvestment into that community. And it's wonderful. It's very well thought out. It's a very timely, and it'll be a great connecting piece to one day we'll be able to do even more up there. So it's really, really nice. I fully support it, and I think it's wonderful.
It's a great way to use impact fees.
And I would agree with that. This actually would result in a number of people being taken with bikes, and these sections of roads that would bypass are very busy. You've got a couple of corners in there. You've got narrow, very narrow pathways along that. So this would go a long ways to improve safety as well for a lot of the people currently using those trails. So yeah, I fully support this, and I'd make a motion when you're ready, Mr. Chair. Motion to approve.
Second.
Very good. Mr. Mendoza, thank you for making this presentation.
Thank you.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Thank you very much. Well, this ends our agenda items. Commissioners, comments? Either of you have anything you'd like to comment on today?
I just thank you, Mr. Chair, and Commissioner Harvey. I thought this has been a great meeting. We've accomplished a lot today, and that's what we do.
That's true, isn't it?
One thing. You know, you mentioned something the other day. You gave a report, Commissioner Chair Jenkins, to, I can't remember where we were. Oh, we were with the Republican, the Weber County Republican Party. And I would echo that. His report was that we really get along very well. We work well together. We respect one another. And I think no matter what government you have, on any level, the minimum we should hope for is to have respect for one another. And that's, from my seat right here, I can absolutely tell you that that's happening in this body of government right here in the county. And that's because of you, too. And I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I want to echo this. I enjoy doing business and working with you two. It's a pleasure. So, with that in mind, how about a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. So, just so you know, I will be